Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Grace Holland. The saga of two people missing from Fayetteville for years before it was reported continues to have more questions than answers. 17-year-old Blake Devin was reported missing this year, but he hasn't been seen since 2022. His adopted sister, London Devin, has also been missing for years. WRAL anchor Chris Lovingood has been following all the twists and turns of this case and joins us to break it all down. Chris, thanks for being here.
That's not a problem at all.
So let's start at the beginning. When did we first hear about this case?
So we got, it goes back a bit, so stay with me on this.
Yeah.
So late March, I believe the 28th, there was a press release from Fayetteville Police, and it said that they needed help, the public's help looking for someone who went missing. And it said that they were investigating something totally different, and then they found out that there was a boy believed to be 17, Blake Devin, who had been missing for not days, not months, years. And if you have any information, give police a call. And we looked at that press release multiple times. We go, wait a minute. He's been missing for years, but we're only now just hearing about it. What?
Right.
And then days after that, we also get another press release saying that London Devin was missing. At the time, they didn't say exactly that they were adopted, but we've went through the court documents. I've seen them. They are adopted. They're adoptive siblings. And it was, again, not seen for years. And that's when I started to look at the story and I went, okay, I feel like I need to look into this because the circumstances surrounding this, bizarre.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then I think about the pictures that we got of them were not recent up to the last time they were seen.
Or the lack thereof images. So
Exactly,
we had one photo of Blake that was from approximately 2012. And then we had an aged up photo from the national, the database of missing and exploited children. And that was it. Those were only two pictures that we had. And then later we had one photo of London that was taken from 2007. And we have, as journalists, we ask these questions, and I thought this was a fair question to ask. How is it that the most recent photos that you can find of two missing people who have been missing for years is from more than a decade ago on both accounts? That seemed, again, strange circumstances there. Now, I did my due diligence, and I reached out to the biological mothers of both Blake and London, and they provided more pictures, and I did that. I didn't do that to make them relive that trauma by any means. I reached out to them because I knew that they were hurting. They had made some posts online. I tracked them down, and they were more than happy to send us some more photos so that we could at least get a clearer picture of what these two people looked like. And I'm being careful with my words because I used to say the missing kids, and I had to catch myself because they're both adults now. London is believed to be 27, and then Blake, actually today, May 10th, 18th birthday.
Wow. And what made you want to take the lead on reporting this here? What kind of it seems like it had an emotional impact on you to see this.
Maybe there was an emotional impact of it. I have so many nieces and nephews, young kids that they're in my life in that regard. But again, it was just things were not making sense. There are more details that came out about this. You may remember there was the announcement that skeletal remains were found. And we knew that they hadn't been able to identify who the skeletal remains belonged to, but they also didn't say where exactly these remains were found. So it's like, okay, hold on. So police, and this is a Fayetteville Police and FBI kind of joint investigation kind of deal. So we've got two missing people who've been missing for years, but it's only recently reported. We've got skeletal remains that were found. We don't know who they belong to, but they won't tell us where they were found. And this is after they were searching two locations. One, where the Devin family was believed to have lived when they first moved to Fayetteville, and then the current home of the Devin family at the time. So it was just, this story had so many plot points. There was no plot line. And whenever I don't see a plot line, I must make sense of it. And that's why I try to set out to make a timeline, because that's something that even police were trying to do. They sent out a later press release several weeks ago that was something in regards of, if you have ever been to that house, if it was to fix anything, maybe you delivered something, whatever reason, they wanted to hear from you because they too are trying to piece together a timeline. It's very disjointed from when these kids were entered into the foster care system, when they were adopted, when they moved to the Fayetteville area, and when they went missing, and when they were reported missing. All of these just disjointed dates, I was like, this is it's bothering me. I'll be honest, I lost sleep over this story just because it didn't make sense, but also because I have the biological mothers of these two people reaching out to me, pleading to try to get some answers. And that's why I have been trying to keep an open mind with a lot of stuff. I will admit, you've got some Facebook sleuthers that are trying to send me tips and all that stuff. And, if you happen to listen to it, a lot of the stuff that people are telling me, we can't just, this as a journalist, we can't just report anything. We must verify. And ultimately, I need to make sure that the information that I'm culminating, that I'm bringing forward, is helping to answer the question, where are Blake and London Devon?
Right. And I feel like, I know for me watching this story and as a journalist, there not being this cohesive answer, I think that's why it is so fascinating.
Well, and please know that it is not lost on me that I am aware there are things that investigators cannot divulge. As for why they can't, it may ruin the investigation. It may tip someone off that they don't want to tip off. I'm aware of that. But that doesn't mean that I can't ask questions when things don't make sense. And this entire story, frankly, makes no sense.
All right, let's take a quick break right there, and we'll be right back. Are there any other details of this investigation that have happened since we found out about the case in March? You mentioned, obviously, the skeletal remains. Any other details from police that we've learned?
Well, not so much from police. No, they're being very tight-lipped about this. I have reached out to them several times, and I've been told they're not releasing any more information at this time. We just keep checking back in every so often. But obviously, we saw those 911 calls that we looked into as well, and those 911 calls are about the person who reported reporting Blake missing, his adoptive mother, Avante Devon. And for the longest time, we were very careful not to say the adoptive mother's name just because you never want to imply something that isn't quite there just yet. But we thought this is the 911 call. This is the information that's in there. We know that she is the adoptive parent of not just Blake and London, but 3 others that we've been able to confirm. This is necessary to talk about it. But also what was discussed in that call, right? It starts off with her saying that she needs to file a missing person report. She was trying to call 911, says that, he, as in Blake, told me he was going to a Buddhist retreat and he never came back. Dispatcher says, when did you last see him? Avante says, she's kind of struggling to recall and says it was between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Then the dispatcher says in 2023, 2022. And she goes, goodness gracious, I think 2022. And even that call leads to more questions for me. What Buddhist retreat are we talking about? When was the absolute last time that you heard from Blake? And why is it that it was only now that we're hearing about a report being made? Was this something that he would leave for a while and not contact? You know what I mean? Like I have specific questions, but those are for the adoptive mother who I've been trying to get into contact with. I have reached out to her lawyer who has told me no comment at this time.
You mentioned that you've talked to Blake and London Devon's family, their biological families, parents, moms. What do they think of this case? Where are they feeling at this point?
So what I can say, what they're telling me is obviously they're hurt. These are their biological children. People have asked me also, well, why were their kids taken away from them? Which, to me, I don't think that is the core issue at here. They're missing. That is the core issue. But I believe that it is a question that should be answered, which was there were allegations of abuse on both sides of this case for Blake's mom. Felicia Chandler, she was accused, and she says these are false accusations of abuse in the household. She's very adamant that these are false. And then the same case with London's biological mom, Sherry Foster, allegations of abuse. She denies it vehemently, and that's all I can do in regards of asking to it. I can try to get more, but there are certain in our state, trying to get information about like foster care and all that stuff, it's sealed. So it's difficult to get those answers, which is why I check back in with them every so often. And I'm trying to check back in with Blake's biological mother because today's a tough day. I mean, it's her son's 18th birthday. He went missing. She hasn't seen him in a long time or heard from him in a long time. Right.
And you said that you haven't been able to get in touch with their adoptive mother. Does she have any kind of representation? Anyone on that side?
Just the lawyer, and I know that because of court documents, there is a situation unfolding in that regard where, and this is something that we've reported before as well, but essentially she, according to these court documents, she is accused of neglecting her ailing mother. If you look through them, and I've seen them, looked through them, there's accusations of exploiting her ailing mother. There was a petition to freeze her mother's assets because of the accusation with this, and it even mentions in the narrative at the bottom of the document, why they think that there's exploitation happening, and it mentions the investigation for, it says, the missing grandchildren of the person in question. The person in question is the ailing mother, who her grandchildren would be Blake and London.
Gotcha. Okay. And so at this point, where are we at in the investigation? When might we see some new developments in this case or get new information?
So from what we last heard from investigators, it's going to be a while before they identify who the skeletal remains belong to. That'll obviously, push us forward in that regard. But I think the next other step is to try to figure out who's responsible here. Where is there a lapse of maybe checking in on the children? I think and these are questions I have been asking, very much so. I've been reaching out to various DSS, child services in different counties. They were each of the children in the home were adopted from different counties and such. And so I'm trying to get information about that. But again, when it comes to foster care and adoptions and such like that, a lot of that information is sealed. Can't really get a whole lot, but I'm trying. I'm trying to get more. I'm trying to get more detail with it. I've actually been consulting with Lena Tillett. She has been, she has that case in Nash County that she is DSS that she has followed for such a long time, and I try to get guidance with her to try to get information with this. But I think the biggest thing, obviously, people just want to know where Blake and London Devon are. It's been a while since they've been seen, apparently. And knowing only fragments of the story as we've been able to report them, like confirmed information, that has been like what people want answers to. And it's like I can only give answers to what I know, and that's why I keep looking into it. I have not forgotten about this story. I think some people, I've been trying to keep up on TikTok with different updates that I do. I have like a whole little mash up of updates that I provide. But this story, because of the lack of a plot line, that's what bothers me. And just there seems like there is something here that needs to be looked into, and that's why I keep at it.
All right. Well, Chris, we know you'll stay on top of it, and thank you for breaking it all down for us here today. And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email that's waiting in your inbox every morning with local news, events, and headlines to get you ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.